So what's going on, guys? My name's Chopper. Welcome everybody to another video today. We're going to be ranking every gun in PUBG on the tier list maker. And in 2020, the meta of PUBG and the weapon tuning has changed a lot. And whether you haven't played the game in a while and you just want to know what weapons are viable and good now, or if you're brand new to the game and you just kind of want to get an understanding of what weapons are good and why, we're going to be breaking down every single weapon in the game and putting them on their tier list maker in the category. So I will explain my reasoning as we go through. But if you guys enjoyed today's video, please make sure to drop a like. We're gonna go for 1,000 on this video. I'd really appreciate that. Subscribe if you're new to the channel, of course, and so you don't miss any more videos like this. And also, if you want to go follow me on Twitch, I stream almost every day. Links in the description down below. But without further ado, guys, enjoy the ranking every single gun in PUBG. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, here we have every gun in PUBG in front of us, and we're going to be ranking them to the category that they belong in. So, the categories we have are GOAT tier, A, B, C, D, and why is this in the game? So, it's pretty straightforward. The point of me doing this is to give you guys a better understanding of the weapons and why I'm putting them in the category that I do. But we're just going to go in order here, starting with the AKM. I think we're going to have to put this in A tier, and reason being is it's an incredibly reliable weapon, but it just doesn't have the same the same sauce as some of the better ARs in the game, like the barrel, which we're gonna get to later. That gun is absolutely insane. It just beats the AKM out in pretty much everything as far as like DPS and fire rate and all that. So the AKM is still a super good gun. I'm gonna have to drop it in A tier. Next up, we've got the AUG, another airdrop weapon. So this one, you know, like, I don't know, ask me a year ago between this and the M4, I would actually say it's personal preference, but where we are in the game right now with all the nerfs that have been put on the M4, it's honestly been neutered pretty hard. However, the AUG has still remained pretty stable, and it beats the M4 by a mile now. So I'm going to have to put this in GOAT tier. It's easily one of the better guns in the game, if you know what you're doing. Obviously, it's harder to get playtime with it because it is a crate weapon, of course, but it's still absolutely insane to get your hands on it. And speaking of insane guns, we got the AUM next. I think this one's pretty self-explanatory. This literally belongs nowhere else except GOAT tier. That one, honestly, that one speaks for itself. Okay, now we got the PP Bison. So this one's interesting. The PP Bison is an SMG that a lot of people wanted, and I think that they had a better intention on how they wanted this to perform. So I think the biggest thing holding the Bison back is the fact that there's no really customization you can do to make the gun better. Its fire rate cap is pretty slow, to be honest, meaning that it's an easy to control gun, but it does not kill incredibly fast. And especially up against like really, you know, highly level armored players, level 3 or even level 2, it can struggle against. I think I'm gonna have to put the PP Bison probably in C tier. Again, it's not horrible, but it gets outclassed by almost anything else. And then next up, we got the Crossbow. So unless you're just like trolling or, you know, trying to do something in particular, I mean, Crossbow, it's not going to do you a lot of good up against like actual meta guns and good players. So it's not going to take you too far, although it can be really enjoyable sometimes. I'm gonna give it D tier. I'm not going to give it the bottom spot because it does have a pretty, like, it's got really high damage, of course. If you hit a headshot, it's literally going to one-tap a level 3 helmet if you actually land that. So, I mean, we're going to give it D tier. It's a crossbow. It's whatever. Next up, we got the crowbar for some reason. I mean, I'm just going to, yeah. I don't even got to explain that one. Y'all already know what the situation is with that. Okay, now we get the DBS. So, if this was still in crates, in its crate form, I'd probably give it, I probably would have gave it A tier, but it's been nerfed a little bit and also taken out of crates. Pretty much still the best ground shotgun, but again, it's also a shotgun in PUBG. So that's pretty much all that needs to be said. I'm going to give the DBS B tier. It just doesn't have the legs to go forward, right? It is easily the best ground spawn shotgun, hands down. But it just, I don't know, it just really doesn't compete with actual, let's say, real guns in PUBG. All right, now we've got the Deagle. Deagle's fun. I like playing the Deagle a lot. Is it useful? Kind of, but it's also a third weapon slot, meaning you don't have to sacrifice an actual good gun to run this. Probably one of the best pistols, in my opinion, to hold on to. And I quite like using it, even though I don't pick it up a ton these days. I'm going to give the Deagle, I think I'm going to go ahead and give it C tier. It's yeah, probably one of the better pistols, but just not the greatest gun in the entire world. All right, now we got the DP28. This is it actually got a little bit of a buff recently, and this, now a lot of people know this, it was in the last patch. Now the buff was its damage but up against vehicles, and despite that, the DP28 is incredible when proned out. Obviously that's a little bit of a risk to do in PUBG, but it's still a good gun nonetheless. It's actually surprisingly easy to use, and it kills really fast. I'm gonna give the DP28 A tier. I think it's like a better version almost of the AKM. It's a little bit hard to find because it doesn't appear on every map. It can be a little bit rare, but I think the DP28 is pretty great, so I'm gonna give it 8 tier. We got the flare gun next. I can't really include this in any sort of like category here. It just doesn't like it. You know, it's not an actual gun really, so. I'm gonna like, I mean, if this had its own category, I'd put it there. But let's just say for getting access to some of these better guns, we'll give the flare gun, I don't know, 8 tier. Again, this kind of belongs in its own category. Maybe shouldn't really be in this list. We got the G36C. So I kind of like this gun, and I've liked it a lot more than I used to. This one's pretty self-explanatory as well. I'd say it's almost on par with the AKM. It doesn't quite get GOAT tier, but I am gonna give it 8 tier. It's pretty solid. It's arguably around the M4 status now, just in terms of how useful it is in practicality. But I think it belongs in A tier. We got the Groza next, and this gun, as far as I'm aware, is one of the last remaining weapons that's like never gotten a buff or nerf since the game came out. It's remained the same since day one, I believe. I just don't recall any changes to this. So it's been a monster since day one, and it still remains to be a monster. It's got to go in GOAT tier. There's no other explanation for that. It's still incredible. Okay, next up we got the Kern 98. So I'm going to actually pair these two together. We have the Kern 98 and then the Mosin. So if you guys have never played with the Mosin, it is essentially a reskin right now of the Kern 98. I'm hoping the stats change to make it a differentiated sniper rifle, because they've actually added the Mosin into Erangel now. So but right now, as it is, it's just a Kern 98K. I'm going to have to put the K9 in. See, I want to give it GOAT tier. You know, I actually might, and I'll explain why in a minute, but I think I'm going to give the Kern 98 GOAT tier. I think it's the best bolt-action rifle in the game right now. Besides, obviously, besides the it's not a crate weapon, but I'll explain why when we get to the other bolt actions, why I'm putting this here. I think it's the best one in the game, though, so far. Now we've got the M16, and this gun is like, it's changed a lot for sure. Depending on the last time you guys played PUBG, you may not be up to date with the newest M16 changes, but they've made it significantly more viable. Now, I won't say that it's on par with some of the other full auto rifles, but it is pretty damn good. I'm going to give it A tier. The M16, asked me 6 months ago, I probably would have given it a B or C tier, but it's pretty good now. Like, the damage is, I still believe it's the only 5.56 AR, besides the AUG, that can one-shot someone without a helmet now. Pretty much all of them used to be able to do that, but I think only the M16 now has that capability. It only makes sense to give it A tier, I think, so I'm going to leave it there. We've got the M249 next, and before the nerf, this would easily go in GOAT tier. Easily up here, but it's been nerfed. It's been taken out of crates to make room for the MG3, which we will be ranking too. But for the M249 now, the ground spawn version is not nearly the monster it used to be. Part of me wants to give it B tier, but I don't think it should be that low, honestly. I think this should be A tier as well. Like, it's still really, really good. It's not just this insane, incredible shred machine that it once was. It's definitely been knocked down a tier, so we'll give it A. There's a lot of guns in A tier right now. I mean, these are all solid weapons. We have the M24 next. Now, this is what I was mentioning about the Kern 88. I still think the Kern 88 is the best bolt-action rifle, and a lot of people get confused about this, like, why not the M24? The difference between these two weapons, the M24 has a little bit of, like, a faster reload time, and I believe fire rate as far as its bolt speed, although they're pretty close. The main difference here is damage. The Kern 88 still maintains more damage, and when running bolt-action sniper rifles, usually the main point of it is to try to get the headshot or the one-shot kill. And whether you land it on the body or the head, you just want to have that extra damage coming out. It doesn't matter, like, if this has a slightly faster bullet speed or something like that. I think the Kern 88 has to be in GOAT tier. Well, I'm going to put the M24 in A tier. Again, they're really, really similar. But, you know, I think as it stands in the meta and how good people are at shooting, the Kern 88 is just a little bit more of a valuable weapon. Now we've got the M416. So, oh man, I've been dreading ranking this one because it's recently been nerfed pretty dang hard. So, If you've played PUBG at pretty much at all recently before the nerf, you would know that the M4 would easily be in GOAT tier. It's significantly better than any of the other automatic ARs, and it's just a great gun, right? Like, I don't have to explain the M4. You see it all the time. It's probably the weapon in PUBG that sees the most overall kills, just in terms of average players. But I don't know if it belongs in GOAT tier anymore. I'm gonna be honest. It certainly does not compete with the AUG anymore. It doesn't compete with the Groza. I think it actually belongs in A tier now. I would probably put it somewhere like mid A tier. Again, it's still really good, but it's just, you know, it's not the same anymore. I think it's got to be an A tier. Again, it kind of pains me not to put it in the GOAT anymore, but I just don't think it has that status as it stands. Now we've got the barrel, and you know what? This is weird. The barrel and the M4 have almost switched places. This is probably what people argue the best gun in the game right now besides airdrop weapons. I'm going to put the barrel in GOAT tier. The gun is insane. The damage is ridiculous. And this gun got buffed. A lot of its recoil was just shredded. The bullet velocity actually went up as well, meaning you don't need to lead shots as much and stuff like that. So it's an incredible weapon. I think it has to go in GOAT tier. It might see a nerf at some point. I'm thinking that is a possibility. But as it stands, it's a GOAT weapon. Machete. Yeah. Mini 14. This one is interesting. So we haven't really touched the DMRs much yet, but as far as this one is concerned, I still think it is one of the better ones. Even, like for, I don't know, let's just say squad play. I think bolts are better to use in solos, just generally speaking, but the Mini 14 is probably the most reliable DMR besides the ones that are in crates. So I'm going to give the Mini 14... I think I'm gonna give this A tier. It's damn good. It's solid all around. The Mini 14 it's great to hit pretty much anybody that uses it. Now we've got the Mark 14. There's not much to say about this gun. It's literally, I'd probably put this at the very top of GOAT tier. It's the best gun in the game, like still. Maybe arguably comparable to the MG3. But the Mark 14 just has the most practicality. It can handle itself at long range, wonderful at close range as well. So yeah, it's unbeatable. Probably the best gun in the game right now. I don't think there's much arguing that. Now we've got the Mutant. Okay, so probably 6 months ago, if that's the last time you guys played, the Mutant would probably be in C tier or maybe B tier, but it's been buffed a lot. And I would say that it's better than the M16. So I don't know where I'd put it really on, in this category. But the Mutant has to go in A tier. Now, I almost want to give it GOAT status, but I know it doesn't quite get there. It's damn good, but it isn't that good. The Mutant's going to have to be A tier. It is really, really solid now, and it's quickly becoming one of my favorite guns ever to play. Now we got the MP5, and so this got added to Karakin as well. And I believe it's only on that in Vikendi. But this weapon is probably just the Vector, but better and more reliable. A little bit less recoil, and just kind of, you don't need as many attachments, I think, to make it viable. I'm going to give this, I actually kind of want to give it GOAT tier. I think I'm gonna give the MP5 GOAT tier. It is an insane weapon, and I'm really surprised that it's not seen any nerfs. It's like the Vector, but in like an AR form. It's really, really solid. Okay, so next we got the Glock. This one, I don't love, to be honest. I'm going to have to drop this pretty low. It's not better than the Deagle. It's not quite useless like some of these, but I'm going to give it D tier. The biggest thing holding the Glock back is that it's good at one thing alone, and that's like pretty much up close spraying. If you're just single firing somebody, it doesn't do a lot of damage. Not really that great, so I'm going to give it D tier. Not much to say about that one, honestly. We got the 1911 next, and this one, probably pretty similarly. I'm going to give D tier. It's not quite the Deagle, so I think most of the pistols are probably going to belong down here as well as the P92. These are all kind of analogous, right? There's not much difference between these three weapons. The Deagle seems to be a cut above that, so that's why I'm placing it in C tier instead. Next, we got the Pan. So again, this is not really a gun, but it has its uses. It's a melee weapon, but it also is a piece of armor. I kind of want to give this D tier just because, like, it's a bit better than these. And actually, one thing to note that's kind of interesting is when throwing melee weapons, which is now a thing, you can actually throw the Pan, and it doesn't go quite as far as some of these ones do, but it hits harder. The Pan has more damage when throwing it at somebody. Again, not incredibly useful, but it's an interesting tidbit to know, and it does provide armor. So we'll go and give that D tier. All right, now we got the QBU. So this is the Sanok exclusive DMR, pretty similar to the Mini 14. Now there is a few differences between these two weapons. They're not identical. I'd actually say the Mini 14 is a little bit better. So I'm gonna say that the QBU is B tier. I just don't think that it really quite gets into this upper echelon, especially where the Mini 14 belongs. It's like, it's really good. It's reliable. I just don't think it's great. I think it's pretty average at B tier. We get the QBZ next. Pretty much the Sanok equivalent of the Scar. The QBZ is honestly not that good. I'd say it's lower tier than pretty much most of these ARs, but I'm also going to give this B tier. It's probably like one of the weakest out of the fully auto 5.56 assault rifles. It's just okay, I guess. We've got the Revolver next. Again, pretty good if you can hit your shots. Not quite Deagle status, but I'm going to give this also D tier. It's just kind of somewhere within these pistol categories. These are pretty easy to rank. Now, we have the R45. I don't know why this gun is in the game. I'll be truthful with you. I have no idea why this is still around. I would give this D tier, but it's just like it's literally an inferior Deagle. This got added when this is actually one of the first guns to get added to the game post launch. So this came out, I think, around the time Miramar was around, and the R45, I don't know why it's still in the game. They literally removed it from Vikendi. This gun probably sees the least amount of playtime. I'm gonna put it in the very bottom tier. The gun is horrible. I don't think it should be ran. It should always pick one of these pistols above that. It's just garbage, to be honest. So yeah, we're dropping bottom tier. We got the S12 next, and again, not quite as good as the DBS. I would say it's lower tier, but we're going to give it B also. S12 is okay. Not too much to say about that one, honestly. It's just like a whatever shotgun. We have the pump shotgun next, and I actually think that the pump is maybe slightly below the S12. This gun is quite difficult, I would say, to get a handle on now, because players are really good at, you know, kind of detecting that somebody's using a shotgun and positioning themselves in a way that they're not going to get hit by this thing. And if you miss a shot, you're kind of in trouble. I'm actually going to give this one C tier. I just don't think it quite gets there, man. I think it's gotten a, like, you know, a little bit worse in the meta as the time's gone on. So yeah, I'm going to give that C tier. Next up, we've got the double barrel, and I think I'm going to place this as well with B tier. Double barrel is a little bit better, in my opinion, for solos, but I would say that the pump is probably going to be better in squads. But yeah, I mean, they're roughly one and the same, but I just think that the double barrels maybe just a cut above the pump action, even though they're pretty similar. We've got the sawed off next, so I don't quite know where to put this. Part of me wants me to put this in very bottom tier, but another part of me says I just put it in D tier. I don't think it matters either way. It's like literally just it's a pocket mini version of the double barrel shotgun. Not that great, honestly. I mean, it's a good sidearm or whatever, but, you know, not incredible nonetheless. Pretty poo-poo. I'm going to give this D tier. Again, it's not horrible, and it can surprise people, especially if they're right in your face. It can be good for that, but it doesn't have much uses outside of 2 meters, you know. All right, now we get the Scar. So, Scar has become a little bit more competitive with the M4 as of recently, and I would say that it's pretty good in the meta right now. It's not quite GOAT tier. I wouldn't put it up there, but I'm going to put it somewhere in A tier. I don't know exactly where I'd rank that, but it is damn good. The Scar is solid. It's an A tier weapon. You know, it's wonderful. It's reliable. Can't really beat it. Now we got the Sickle. So that one's pretty easy too. These ones are not too hard to rank. Okay, so next up is the Scorpion. This one, I'm going to have to put this in pretty solidly in D tier. It's up there in D tier. It's just not that good. It can take a lot of attachments, and in some sense, I feel like it's a mini version of the MP5. But the problem is, it's just like, why would you invest that many attachments in a Scorpion? You know what I mean? Good pocket SMG, but other than that, not incredibly useful. Now we got the SKS, another great DMR. Problem is, it's not the SKS is not nearly as good as the SLR or even the Mark 14. I'm actually gonna put the SKS in B tier. I think it's probably one of the worst DMRs in the game. Not terrible, but like the SLR would have to go in A tier. It's just better. It's better all around, and especially if you're an experienced player, it's gonna serve you well. All right, next we got the Tommy gun. This is gonna go pretty comfortably in C tier, I think. Tommy gun used to be insane. Like at the beginning of the game, probably in GOAT tier or A, But as it is right now, just, you know, not great. Even despite its buffs. It's been changed a lot, but even as it stands, probably B or C tier is fair, but I'm going to give it C. I just don't see it a lot on the battlefield. We've got the UMP-45 next, and this one's a bit better than the Tommy gun. Definitely a bit more viable. I'm going to go ahead and give this B tier. Yeah, probably belongs somewhere around there. The SMGs are pretty good now, just all around, but yeah, the UMP is still, it's okay. It just doesn't compete with some of these A tier weapons. We got the Uzi next, and pretty similarly to the UMP, I'm going to go ahead and give this B tier. It's damn good. Like, what can I say? It shreds up close. The Vector as well, I would give this GOAT tier, and I'm very tempted to do so, but I just think the reliability and practicality of the MP5 puts it in GOAT tier, where I'm going to have to give the Vector A tier. I think the MP5 is just slightly better, just generally speaking. So yeah, I'll give the Vector A tier. The VSS is a noob shredder, and I would say is a novelty weapon, but practically speaking, I don't really know the viability of this. It's kind of okay up close and medium range. It can surprise people. It's got its uses, man. I'm gonna give this probably bottom of, actually no, I'm gonna give this top of B tier. It's like, yeah, I'd say it's solid. It's a B tier weapon, especially without attachments. It's just okay. It's pretty good. We got the Winchester, again, another novelty weapon, I would say. Pretty similarly, I would actually, no, I'm going to drop this a tier lower. With this, okay, actually, without the scope, I would have given the C tier. With the scope, I'm going to give it B tier. Probably bottom of B tier. The scope completely changed the weapon, making it like a younger brother of the Kern 98K. But it's still got to be B tier, I would say. However, it did get itself up a notch with the scope. Now, not appearing on here, but I'm going to rank the MG3 in GOAT tier. The MG3, I'm just going to put a little PNG, belongs right here. That boy is insane. The MG3 is probably one of the best guns in the game in a while. So, yeah, that is actually the full list. That is the full tier list of PUBG weapons ranked. Let me know what you guys thought about my list. Let me know what you think down below in the comment section. If you guys did enjoy today, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you are brand new to the channel. And I will see you guys in the next stream or the next video. Have a good one, everybody, and peace out.